have tonight our full complement of board. We have Kelly Bigos, our recording secretary, Tom Wooden, our town manager, Selectman J.D. Warren, Art Hathaway, Valerie Augustine, Robert Spillane, and I'm Bill Hamblin, the chair. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes for January 14th, January 28th, and February 11th. And we'll hear motions.
I move that we approve the January 14th meeting minutes as amended.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the January 14th meeting minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Approved. Do I hear motions on the others?
I move that we approve the minutes of January 28th and the minutes of February 11th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the remaining minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? They are approved. And that brings us to financials. Turn the floor over to Julia Latter.
Finally, we have your financials for you. Total revenue year to date, $4,656,268.79. Total expenses year to date, $5,087,674.25. And according to the graph, it depicts we have 63.9% of our budgeted revenue compared to this time last year of 61.1%. We have collected about 64% of our taxes year to date, with our second installment taxes due on March 14th. So we're a couple of weeks away from the second installment due. And accounts payable is $83,324.76. The bank balance as of today is $1,837,436.91. Does anyone have any questions on the revenue or expenses?
Is Trio working again?
Finally, it's been a couple of weeks process, but
Good.
a little glitch here today, but we got it working again.
It seems to have been quite glitchy recently.
It's only on the budgetary side too, so cash receiving, payroll works well, but it was in like the journal entering portion of it when I was processing the accounts payable.
Good.
It works up until the day I go to process it. So.
Thank you.
When you need it.
Timing is everything. So, bottom line, we seem to be right on track. We're tracking last year pretty well. Yeah, we seem
We're doing
reasonably.
well as far as tax collections and everything.
Yep.
Budget for that, so.
Good. Very good. Very good. Yep. Thank you, Judy. Any other questions from the board? No. Very good. Thank you. That brings us to town manager announcement. I'll turn the floor over to Tom Wood.
Okay. Just a reminder that tomorrow there's an election here from 8 to 6 p.m. for the Water District's referendum question. Also, just another reminder, on Wednesday at 4:30 of this week is our next budget meeting, and the ambulance crew will be here for their second visit.
Will that be, excuse me, is that next week?
That's this week.
This week, yeah. This Wednesday.
Yes,
Yes.
this one. Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Lincoln County Healthcare. They would like to come before the board as well and talk to the board as well. I expect I'm going to have some numbers on that before they even come. I think they're at the Booth Bay meeting now, explaining numbers, and I think they're going to explain the numbers for all the towns this evening. So you may hear that before the evening's over. So.
Okay.
And lastly, I just wanted to have a little discussion about replacing the phones and replacing the server here. If you remember, last year we put money in the budget to replace the aging phone system here that's no longer supported by Burgess. We've got $12,000 in a reserve account for that. In talking with Burgess about the RFP for the phone and so forth, it's come to my attention that our server is actually more of a priority than the phones are, and they're recommending that we change out the server prior to doing the phones. The phones and the server are interconnected, and Julie will have to explain how. I'm not knowledgeable on that, but the server's approximately $16,000. Phones are approximately $12,000. So what I'm thinking of doing is we get farther along in the spring and get closer to the change in the budget years, I mean, you know, we have put 16K in there for the next budget for the server, is as we approach June 30th, purchase the server first, and then purchase the phones shortly thereafter. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
So that the server bill would fall into next fiscal year.
The server bill would fall into this particular year, so we'd be over budget by $4,000 there.
Okay.
And we'll be lucky to get to June.
Yeah, that's what
Because we
they,
have some file corruption errors, and it's been about 4 or 5 months that we're having to band-aid some issues. Our server is about 6 years old, and it's not supporting what we're currently holding for like drive space. We bought an external hard drive that we're currently using as a like through a USB port. We're plugging into it, and what happens is on a daily basis we have to keep unplugging it, plugging it back in. Our backup keeps failing. There are numerous issues. So when we have our when Burgess comes down and does their monthly maintenance, they're spending a lot more time trying to get it up and running. They're calling us to reboot the server all the time and everything. So we're spending a lot more money trying. We're above our BizGuard hours, and it's only what month is this?
February.
Yeah, so we're having a lot more issues.
Are the backups occurring?
They are occurring, but they're occurring forced up there. We back up off-site, fortunately, so there's somebody up there monitoring it all the time, and they're forcing those backups. So they're very concerned about it. Mike, the owner of Burgess, had sent me a message saying that he understands that we were interested in purchasing a phone system in this current year and a server in the next year. They're suggesting that we purchase one server, which will hold both the phone system and the computer system, and get more money, what did he put here? Better bang for our buck, so that they can monitor the entire system. I guess it's better to have a server that you can have a phone system on, but more companies are going that way. And he's thinking if we can make it till June and July and have one server that holds both systems, then we will be saving money that way.
Can I ask you what model server they're recommending?
This one is an Intel
Who makes the actual mainframe?
It's HP ProLiant ML350P 5U tower server. I'll give you a copy of it.
Please.
Okay, I'll give you the...
It seems to me that I buy servers, and it just seems that $16,000 is an extreme, it's a lot of money.
Right, and typically it's usually about $5,000 or $6,000 for just the server, and that's what we are. But it's the licenses that come along with it that we're having to pay for as well. It includes everything that we're doing. It's $3,000 for the labor along with it. It's not just the server; it's not the hardware itself. It's the whole setup of it. It's the bundle of licenses, the small business. Microsoft Windows Small Business, another $1,000. I can give you the whole invoice that we had set up for. I think you put it before the budget committee a couple of weeks ago as well. But
yeah, I just wanted the board.
$15,000.
I just wanted the board to be aware that sometime between now and June 30th, we may be forced to go make a purchase, and it wouldn't have been the one you would have thought it was going to be in the phones. We'd probably do the server first, and then the phones. So.
It still may be worth looking at a second option.
Sure.
It just seems expensive. We typically buy a Dell with hot swappable multi-terabyte drives, all that kind of thing, and the whole 9 yards is generally, for the hardware, about $2,800.
Well, I think this server was going to cut down on cost of the actual phone system by being able to, do those servers host a phone system as well?
Okay.
The Vox phone system.
I'll look at the quote.
Okay, yeah, we'll go. You can definitely.
Yeah, any advice you have on searching these out, well, I'd welcome it. So,
Thanks, Don.
Are we committed to Burgess?
I would say we're not completely committed to them, but they are the ones that are currently servicing our account and doing a very good job, so that's where we at least gotten
And we
the
are
quotes.
under contract with them right now through our restart currently.
Right.
So if
We are right now.
Yeah, you get it, it's a complete package, it's a
Yeah.
support package as
Right.
well, I understand.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, are you inviting comment from the audience, or is this a closed?
This is closed for now. We will have audience participation in two more sessions.
That's all I have for
Topics.
announcements, Bill.
All right. I mean, this certainly seems like something we ought to get on top of.
We
So
should,
that- And I'm of the inclination, if we do our homework, if we do our homework and get so we understand the situation, I would be inclined to move sooner rather than later. Why take the additional risk?
Yeah, I would
Exactly.
agree with you.
I agree with that.
But it's
Yeah.
clear, I certainly haven't done our homework.
A few
And
years ago, I mean, I could actually, I mean, with my network administration degree and everything for some reason, I can work on a computer and all of that, but the server capability has gone way above my technology capability. I welcome, if you want to come in, Bob, tomorrow, we can call through you and go through it all and go through these quotes and stuff. I would actually welcome
I'd
that.
just like to look through the quote
Yeah.
and make sure that we're getting,
I would like to
Yeah.
understand what we're.
The more
buying.
eyes that look at this, the better.
yeah,
so
as,
I'm fine.
as Mr. Burgess says, apparently more, let's see that we're getting the right bang for the buck.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is public hearings, and then it'll be followed by the first public forum. Public hearings tonight, we have 3 liquor licenses for Gone Skiing Incorporated, doing business as McSeagle's Restaurant, Craig Andrews, doing business as Andrews Harborside Restaurant, and Lafayette Booth Bay Incorporated, doing business as Tugboat Inn. These are all renewals. The McSeagle's is for malt, spiritus, and Venus. The Andrews Harborside is also malt, spiritus, and Venus. And Tugboat Inn is also malt, spiritus, and Venus.
Move we approve them.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve all 3 of these, correct?
Yes.
Right.
All 3 of these. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. That brings us to the first public forum, and I will turn the floor over to the audience if anyone wishes to speak. Bruce?
First issue that occurred to me, speaking about the server and the telecommunications and for the office, the $16,000, does that particular item fall into the guise of over a certain limit needs to go out for bid rather than just do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be appropriate to get some bids from some other?
We will.
Yeah.
people other than
We will.
Burgess?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I know, and again, as you all know, I work for a couple of other communities that are going through the same pains as Booth Bay Harbor, and they are doing just that. They're getting bids from others and finding that there are others that are providing the same type of service for a lot less.
Yeah, that's why I asked if we were locked in.
Yeah.
And I will yield to anyone else, but I have another issue that I wanted to discuss with the board.
Anyone else, or shall Bruce continue?
Well, I do, but Bruce, you go ahead.
Unfortunately, it was brought to my attention earlier this year, actually late last year, that, and it's my own doings, that I wasn't at the town meeting and didn't realize that the town had adopted the main uniform building and energy code effective last July. We also hired a code enforcement officer apparently in June or before, I don't know what the date was. But the issue is that he is not certified in Lubec, nor has he been in any part of Lubec for at least the past 8 months. And that comes from the person in Augusta that handles all of the training. My concern as a taxpayer and resident of Booth Bay Harbor, who is doing the mandatory inspections for instance, the addition at the strip mall? Who's doing the mandatory inspections that are required at the MUBEC, for instance, on Atlantic Avenue, where we have a total renovation project going on, and others in town. The issue is that we've left ourselves wide open for lawsuit. And we have a code officer that apparently for the past 8 months has been operating illegally. If we hadn't adopted MUBEC, he would have been fine. His expiration date is, I think, January of next year. For the old system, which was land use, shoreland zoning, legal issues and enforcement techniques, and building inspector. Those he was current in and still is. Although I would mention to you that after researching it myself, according to the state agency that issues the certification, as of the 19th of this month, the only continuing education that's showing is 12 credit hours in land use, which would have been the old regime. None under shoreland zoning, none under legal issues and enforcement techniques. And of course, the building inspector now is MUBEC, and absolutely nothing in MUBEC. Hasn't taken, or had not taken up to apparently the 19th, 8 months, any of the courses that are required and any of the testing that is required to get certified in MUBEC. I'm concerned with you as a board, Tom as the town manager, our HR representative for the town, allowing this to happen. There are a lot of building projects that have been going on for the past year, and apparently we have not had a qualified, certified code enforcement officer. Now, don't get me wrong, I work in the same realm. I in no way am inferring that this is an issue for Bruce Ender. This is an issue for the town of Blue Bayard. And I apparently would have to assume that you were unaware of it. So I bring it to your attention and hopefully for remedial action.
Thank you, Bruce. I certainly was unaware of it, and I'm sure we'll get on top of it and see what we need to do. Thank you.
I mean, the code officer has a 1-year window in which to pursue getting certified, but that doesn't give him the right to go out and do the work of a certified CEO under MUBEC. It merely gives him an opportunity, a window of 12 months to get certified.
Yeah.
The other issue would be that you need to know that a third-party independent inspector, which is another facet of the new regime, you can hire someone to do those inspections and do his job until he's certified. But you're going to wind up paying anywhere from $100 to $500 a day, or any part thereof, to get a third-party inspector. There are 12 required, a minimum of 12 required inspections in the residential code. So something for you to ponder and hopefully rectify. The other issue is for Tom Wooden, last, and then I'll get off my soapbox. Tom, we talked about, I would say probably 6 or 8 months ago, about telephone poles that were in need of being removed, and that as of late, the one on Atlantic Avenue that most frequently was hit, the wires for apparently the cable people, Time Warner, they've taken their wires off, they put it on a new pole. The old pole still sits there askew and ready to be hit with everything on the new pole. In other words, they changed the wires over on that one and possibly another one on Atlantic Avenue, more, I think, across from, well, probably by Bay Street or maybe further down by Sea Pier. But no one's removing the poles, the old rotten poles that are causing the problem, that people are hitting. Now we go to Atlantic or to Rhodes End, we have 3 of them. It's going on, we're in the 3rd year, if not the end of the 3rd year, since those poles were replaced. What do we have to do to get someone to remove the old pole or cut them off?
You're asking me, Bruce.
Well, Tom, I don't know who to ask. I don't know.
Okay, well, I remember you bringing this up before, and I talked with both the cable company and CMP, and they gave me the whole list of priorities as to how they choose where the poles go and when they take them out and the cost per pole, and I know I emailed that all to
You
you.
did.
So you had the same information I had. What you're bringing up again now I mean, we haven't talked about it in 6 months, so if there's certainly specific polls you want to address, let me know which poll numbers they are, and I'll call them again.
2 on Atlantic Avenue, 3 on Rose
Yeah, I need the
Ave.
numbers off the polls.
I'll get them for you.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know why I should have to, but I will.
because you're
And
bringing
all
it
they
to my
need to do is
attention.
either be removed or cut, one of the two.
Okay. I mean, I'll make the inquiry, but it's up to them to act
Well, it
on it.
really isn't. It's up to the town of Booth Bay Harbor
Is there
to
equipment?
say, look, you replaced the pole, the wires have been changed, there is no reason in the world why you can't remove the old pole, which is why you put the new one in to begin with. So
I'll be
let's
glad to
get
look
with the
into it.
program. We as a town want you to do it.
I'll be glad to look into it for you.
At least that's the way I would view it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think we had one.
Yes, Frank Bassett, Booth Bay Harbor. A couple meetings ago, I gave you a copy of that ticket, parking ticket, with an optional grace period for parking violations. I was wondering if anything's been done about that. Summer's coming, and if you've approached the police department, or whoever you have to talk about that, or if it's just in a holding pattern.
I can tell you that I sat down with Chief Hash and we talked about that for about 20 minutes. And as you may be aware, he's not a big fan of that approach for cost reasons and bookkeeping reasons. And I apologize, I didn't bring my notes tonight from that meeting. I do have notes on that. I'll bring them next meeting and I can tell you in more detail. I've had one discussion with the chief, and that's where it sits right now. No resolution.
Okay, does he have the final say on that, or?
No.
I mean,
No, he does not.
lots of stuff creates more work that we impose upon our employees.
I understand. So I'm not saying there's any answer that I have in hand right now.
Okay.
Or that we have decided this was just an individual
I've talked to him
conversation
about it, but,
that I had with him,
okay.
because I knew you wouldn't forget.
No, no, I can't wait to get a ticket to do that. I love paying those.
Right.
Mike Tomko, Booth Bay Harbor. We've recently had an individual approach the comprehensive plan to join. It's Jamie Logan. As you are well aware, she attended the last meeting for the comprehensive plan. I don't believe that I have seen an agenda that says anything about her being formally voted on, and I've asked that you guys move on that so she can become an official member of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for reminding us, because that should have been on the agenda, and I had forgotten it, and I think we all forgot it. I would entertain a motion that Jamie Logan be appointed to the comprehensive plan. Jody?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Can you vote on the parking ticket like that?
We could.
That was pretty simple.
We all know Jamie Logan, but I don't know that we know your parking ticket, and I don't know that Chief Hash likes it very much. We'll have to see what Bill has to say.
Anybody else for the public forum?
One other thing, I don't know if it's been mentioned, I think we all owe a big attaboy to the Public Works Department and Jody for the recent snowstorms, for both of them.
Here, here.
What a-
Here, here.
The roads are bare and dry right now as we speak, and that's really something.
They did a great job.
They did a great job. We have become spoiled by Jody and the crew, and both in the blizzard and in the subsequent storms, they've done just a remarkable job. And it's a delight, and it's fascinating when I speak to friends and relatives from other areas around the country who don't have as much snow as we do, and the trials and tribulations they have, and I'm saying, roads are clear, it's not a problem. And we have Jody in the Public Works to thank for that, so I would second your sense there, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, as an adage,
He does.
I might ask that, since this is being televised, to all of you who try and drive your four-wheel drive trucks over the snow as fast as you can between Southport and Booth Bay Harbor, you're going to kill somebody who's out shoveling snow. So cool it, guys, please. Thank you.
Anybody else for the first public forum? Going once, going twice? That brings us to old business, and the first item under old business is the St. Andrews Task Force Activity Report. I'll turn the floor over to Valerie.
Great, so I just wanted to thank again Tom and Art and Bill for coming to the public officials briefing, and I understand Jay and Bob that you couldn't be there, but I hope you found it informative, and unfortunately it didn't turn out to be the conversation we had thought it might be at the beginning, but I really appreciate you all coming out, and we have a public meeting scheduled for tomorrow, the 26th at 6:30 p.m. at the elementary school to be the same sort of presentation to the community at large on the Advantage report and the work to date of the St. Andrews Task Force. And I think that's it for the, oh, actually, that's not it. There was big news, which is that some volunteers of the task force were able to have a meeting with the Attorney General, and they were able to sit down and talk about some of the issues that were brought up in the white paper from the task force attorney. And we also have a woman in the audience, Jane Good, who has created a letter, and that letter is being circulated around the 4 towns, and it is for signature by anybody in the towns or interested in the topic to send to the Attorney General, voicing concerns, the same concerns that were brought up in the white paper. So that's the main part of the activity. And we continue to meet the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays in the town office of Boothbay.
Thank you, Valerie. Any questions for Valerie?
I do have one bit about the referendum question.
Shall we do that under new business?
You can do that, yeah.
Anybody have anything else under old business? New business. Valerie?
I apologize in advance that this is not the most organized presentation of this, but I believe this is the way to go about it. I'd like to propose a referendum question to be added to the ballot. And Tom, I look to you because I might need some help on exactly what I want to say about this, but I believe a referendum question can be added to the ballot by the order of the municipal officers. So that's what I'm asking that we do. And the wording I have is the same wording from the petition that was circulated at the last election in the fall. So
Do you have that wording, just so I refresh my memory?
I do, yes. It's, I support maintaining the status of a critical access hospital at St. Andrews Hospital. So that's the referendum question that the task force would like to be added to the ballot, and the hope is that it will be able to be added to the ballot or to the town meeting in some form at all 4 towns. I think I am asking, and it's up for debate, where we want to have it, but I think the easiest way would be to have it on the written ballot where they vote the day before town meeting. I think we're still good for timeline of getting it printed on that.
It would also have to be in the form of a question, so there's a yes or no. I mean, that's just a statement right there.
Oh, okay. Do you support?
Yeah, so you gotta give people a yes or no.
Right.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you are
So
suggesting that it be part of the written ballot?
Yes, that would be my suggestion, but again, if you have a different feeling about that, I think it's up for...
I think you have the lead on this.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be the best. It would be
I'm not sure that I would agree with that, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor.
Well, I want the floor again, but I'll address this. The issue is, for a body to come before this body and say, I want to do something, that body has to be a legitimate body with some kind of a, I would assume, some kind of a number of signatures that would cause us to put that on a ballot. And secondly, the wording of that would have to be approved by this full board in a proper motion that may include additional language. I mean, just to say one thing in such a referendum question without completing the question. What is the purpose of the referendum question? That's a question to Valerie. What is the task force trying to achieve? And I'm not sure that I understand what the task force actually is.
Valerie?
Okay. Well, the first part, which was not a question, but I will answer anyway, is that I think referendum questions, it is my understanding, that can be brought by order of the municipal officers. So, yes, I intend to make a motion at the end of this discussion, and the other option of getting a question on the referendum is by having signatures, as you mentioned. So you could have 10% of the number of votes cast in the town at the last gubernatorial election. So we could go through the rigmarole of getting all of those signatures and bringing them here, and then we would, I believe, have to put them on the ballot. Or we can have it by order of the municipal officers, which is this board, put it directly on the ballot. So I think there's two options there, but not that you have to have both. And secondly, the purpose of the question on the referendum is to see the amount of support in our community for keeping the hospital status, which is the critical access hospital, at the St. Andrews location. And it's just to do that, to see what kind of support the community has for that status and keeping that. And so that's simply it.
So, Mr. Chairman, clearly that is an appropriate use of such a question to establish what level of support. This was done, I believe, during the last election. And at that time, we had discussion about the number of people that actually signed on to that petition. To be fair and balanced, I suppose, one would say, okay, at what cost to the municipality? At any cost? Surely that should be part of the question. But I'm not going to debate the question that you put forward. But I think to put forward a one-sided question is useful if its only intent is to find out what public interest would be. Frankly, you should get, according to general mathematical rules, about 98% of the people that would sign such a referendum. So I really see it being pointless. I would sign it. My wife is a chronic asthmatic, and it may be useful to be able to take her to the emergency room if it were to exist. But I think you have to add cost into the equation, and then you might find a totally different answer. That's all. So am I for it? Sure, I'll vote for it. But am I for the wording? No.
I would, my feeling from a strictly procedural standpoint is that we have a select person who has brought a motion, or is about to bring a motion before this board. And I think that's a proper set of procedures. So why don't you do that, and then we can discuss it and vote on it.
Okay, I motion that we add a question to the referendum that states, do you support maintaining the status of a critical access hospital at St. Andrews Hospital?
I'll second it.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this point? Okay, any further discussion on this point?
I just, what are the, once this goes through, what will they do with those? Say, you know, they get, what do they go do with the numbers? Is that what you're hunting for, numbers?
I think so, yeah. The petition was the same exact question. And I think this is hopefully maybe a feeling of a more legitimate response. You know, you can
Right.
take a more legitimate number of responses from the question on the actual ballot. And it's just, I think, an actual fact, actually, I won't say another fact, an actual fact to put in our pocket to say when we present our case, you know, in a vote of all the voters at the last election,
Well, I
we got a certain
think
percentage.
Janet Mills, I know, Janet Mills definitely, I believe, I've worked up in the state, she would probably want numbers. How does the community feel about that hospital? That's what you're trying to accomplish, I think. Am I right or wrong? That's the main goal, what you're trying to accomplish, and send something to a state agency, which is the Attorney General's office, for all the communities, from Boot Bay to Southport and all that, that's what you're trying to accomplish.
I think
by
that's
that
exactly right.
referendum.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So, for clarification, my understanding, this is a non-binding referendum.
Yes,
There is no dollars attached to it.
no.
Okay. Tom, is there any significant cost to the town?
No, not
Can't
to,
believe
not
there
to
is.
print one more. I mean, it's more of an opinion poll than it is, you
Right.
know, a referendum question. I mean,
Yeah.
it's non-actionable and non-binding, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I've stated my case, and I agree with Tom. It's a non-binding case. I just wonder at the validity of such a question, that's all.
Yeah.
I understand
If that
your
is,
point. I
if that is
understand.
what the task force want, as I say, I would be prepared to vote for such a question. If it doesn't cost me a dime, that's fine.
It does cost. Referendum question requires that you have a public hearing. Has to be advertised 10 days before the public hearing, as opposed to a warrant article, which is an open meeting at the town meeting. If you're going to do a referendum, which is a secret ballot, then you have to advertise and you have to have a public hearing before you do that.
Yeah, which is why I
And
use
that incurs costs.
Which
Right.
is why I use the term significant cost.
Again, it's not significant.
Public, this is a public hearing also, or ostensibly, it is a public hearing.
We usually attach those to our regular meetings, so that there's no...
But am I wrong or right, if you put this, you know, you get it all written and put out, we are gonna have it, because you'll have the opportunity to speak in town meeting on it.
Well, no.
No, because you vote on it the day before.
Oh, we vote on, I'm
It's
sorry,
not up for
I mixed
Town
up,
meeting, you
that's all
vote
right.
up or down.
Yeah,
A
right.
Referendum, you.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The
All right.
advantage is it's secret, it's written.
Right.
Which is, I
Okay.
presume, that's why I asked you, is this a referendum
You
or
did.
a warrant article?
Okay,
But there's no money attached to it, and therefore the selectmen have no obligation to comment on it one way or the other.
Right.
As we would for a financial item. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Not on that issue, no.
Seeing none. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Any other old business? New business, rather? We need to get that written document to Kelly so that she has the exact wording. Any other new business? Going once?
No, I'll withhold until a future time, since this excuse me, I'll withhold any further new business until you finish the public
Okay.
portion of the meeting.
We're now into the second public forum. The remaining agenda items are executive session warrants and move to adjourn, so. Anybody else? Mike?
Tom Coat with Bay Harbor. For the benefit of our press and the public, would you like to give a recap of the 6 o'clock ordinance review meeting?
I'd just love to, Mike. At 6 o'clock, we had a review of some, I've forgotten the exact number now, but significant
21.
21 proposed amendments or changes to the land use code of Booth Bay Harbor. We went through each one in detail, decided to set aside 3 of them as needing additional work before they would be brought before the voters. Amended 1, changing the wording slightly, and the rest met with the approval of this board and the public during that hearing. The vast majority of them are not administrative changes, but English corrections and clarifications, and do not change fundamentally any of the land use codes before the town of Booth Bay Harbor.
And they will then go to the warrant to be voted on the...
And they will appear in the warrant, and then we will review the warrant, and then they will go before town meeting where we can have further discussion. I said most of them are clarifications. 1 or 2 have impact in the way things are operated, and will have slight changes, but not major changes. Mostly continuing the current practice. Is that fair?
Yes, and only to summarize, this represents the second public hearing
Yes.
on ordinance review. Thank you.
Anybody else? Second public forum? There's a note here, and it's a good one. I wanted to mention, and we all want to mention, I suspect, the success of our Seahawks, both the girls and the boys team. Just very proud of them, and as you all know, the boys won and are still going, and we'll be playing in Bangor next Saturday. Is it? Saturday. Yep. At 8:30, late night.
We'd be lucky to get home.
Late night.
And that's the last game being played in Bangor Auditorium.
Yeah, that's
it.
right.
We get the chance to do that.
So we wish them all the best. They're a marvelous team. They play well together. They embody the spirit of Booth Bay and teamwork, and it's just been a joy and a delight to watch them. So we wish them all the best. Public forum, going once, going twice. Did you want the floor?
Yes, please. I'd like to make a statement. It will be about 5 minutes in length.
All right.
I've received a number of calls about the activities of the St. Andrews Task Force. The concern is that we hear one side of the issue. I'm just telling you what people tell me. What a terrible group of people run the hospital. The betrayed trust. The suggestion of another viewpoint is met with scorn. Booth Bay Harbor is a villain. We won't and have not contributed taxpayer dollars to the cause is one reason. And can this group control my taxes? Are they able to bypass the Booth Bay Harbor Board of Selectmen? You, Bill, stated recently as part of an answer, while the Booth Bay Harbor Selectmen fully support the task force efforts to secure the best possible health care for the community. Well, I don't support the task force in that sense. Those words are yours, they're not mine. What is the task force? I believe the task force is an ad hoc group of community and political activists operating under a charter written by Jim Chaosis of the town of Booth Bay, who is the apparent spokesman. All releases to the press and communication with others appear to have been made by Mr. Chaosis. It was answered consistently when asked about the legal standing of the task force that it is a municipal body. Mr. Chaosis has also been, in my opinion, vague as to the SATF and the FOAA, the Freedom of Access Act. An issue not of great concern until Ms. Mello, a reporter from the Booth Bay Register, was recently denied access to an executive session, while other members of the public were allowed to attend. The Booth Bay attorney, Jeff Hull, believes that it is subject to the FOAA, and I do too. Earlier, this Board of Selectmen approved the minutes of the January 14th meeting, during which I asked Ms. Augustine if I could attend an executive session of the task force. Valerie responded that I would have to ask Jim Chaosis, which she later corrected, or Mr. Chuck Cunningham of Booth Bay for permission. We have equal rights and privileges on the Board of Selectmen when it comes to municipal business. So I would not ask a selectman from another town if I could attend. I don't report to that selectman, and that selectman was elected by another group of people. I was selected by the people of Booth Bay Harbor. This exchange by Miss Augustine and I had been left out of the minutes, and at my request have now been inserted in the public record, and that's fine. I appreciate it. Thank you. The FOAA is a main state law which this Board of Selectmen must comply with. This note that I'm reading now is subject to it, as are minutes, emails, and notes. The Maine state statute reads, "The Freedom of Access Act is a state statute that is intended to open the government of Maine by guaranteeing access to the public records and public proceedings of state and local government bodies and agencies." You can look it up on the web at www.maine.gov/FOAA/frequently asked questions. On that basis, therefore, it seems that the task force must be a state or local government body, agency, or official, since Mr. Chaosis constantly says that it is a municipal body. I would suggest to you that this is not possible, as without a charter or stated purpose. Now, there is a stated purpose in the last couple of weeks. It's impossible to see how such a body could have been formed when there is no visible public record that includes a record of legislative action. That's a town meeting or a referendum vote that was taken by the legislatures of the towns, the legislators being the people. I don't remember ever being asked to go to a meeting to approve the formation of a task force. There are 4 people on the task force. Why not 5 or 7, like other municipal bodies? Who voted for these people to represent this town in an action against a private corporation in this town? In the beginning, and I go back to the beginning, I'm using these notes to jog my memory and yours. We were asked to provide a representative to listen and report back to us the activities of a task force. We appointed Valerie, who immediately became a key member of the task force, as well as our representative. It seems to me these 2 positions are in conflict, making it difficult to obtain information about the activities of the task force, especially in regard to strategic legal action. What is it? Discussions in executive sessions, as they might apply to a municipal body. We recently went through that discussion in public as to what Section 405 of the Municipal Code requires. And it requires that no decisions be made in executive session, that decisions are made in the public space once a discussion has been held. The political involvement of, for example, State Rep McDonald and his suggestion of a community hospital, that seems to be another issue. There seems to be no documented minutes or executive meeting notes. I have asked this Board of Selectmen before to take action to furnish this data by requiring enforcement, but have been unable to get a second. However, the statute is clear on the subject. Who enforces the Freedom of Access Act? The answer, any aggrieved person may appeal to any superior court in the state. Relief can be in the form of an order issued by a court that directs the government body. In addition, the Office of the Attorney General, Janet Mills, may decide to bring an enforcement action seeking penalties if the alleged violation is willful. I'm not saying that it is. I may make such a motion, but I doubt it would get a second, and I doubt further that it would pass. But I'll write to the AG and see if there may be a way to verify the SATF status. Because the only verification I have that it is a legitimate legal body is from Mr. Chaosis. I suppose if there were an action by the AG, I would ask for emails from member to member and all other communications if it's determined that the task force is a municipal body, etc. So there should be, all of that should be somewhere in the record, as are our minutes, which we approve, as are our meeting notes if we go into executive session. And I'm not sure that such notes may be anywhere. Relief can be in the form of an order, as I said, issued by a court. But I noted before, I work in aviation, especially in the field of testing, fault diagnosis, and system design, perhaps akin to a doctor or physician, even to the use of similar diagnostic tools, like ultrasound, X-ray, and many other forms of imaging and testing. Some will say that the aircraft is not a living organism. So I'm going back to the hospital here and saying, the hospital said that they couldn't maintain skilled personnel. And that seems to be a reasonable suggestion on their part. And as I go on to say, and naturally I would agree, until your family or mine is aboard an airplane, it is not a living organism. It makes a huge difference, because now the situation becomes clearer, and we don't all hope the doctors, or sorry, the technicians who adjust or replace defective or malfunctioning parts were well trained and capable of finding any and all safety-related defects and faults. Of course we do. You and I are aware that it must require constant training and hands-on experience to keep abreast of developing faults, some of which are new and concern us enough to improve and broaden our treatment and addition of new ills into our memory and experience registers, improving our overall knowledge base. What and why the furor over this hospital? It's a private corporation. Medicine, like aircraft, have changed dramatically over the years. Emergencies have changed. Cars are safer, aircraft are safer. Many maladies have less invasive treatments. In the beginning, LCHC suggested that they would no longer keep their emergency room at St. Andrews. Sue Mello, also quoted by iVantage, extensively interviewed with the chief of medical staff at LCHC. The good doctor espoused a huge problem common to many businesses. And I paraphrase, how do you attract good doctors, technicians, and general emergency room staff for 1,100 shifts a year? That's 24/7, 3 shifts with 265 real emergencies, suggesting that 800 shifts were empty, and keep them interested and trained in a variety of maladies. Personally, I would be bored as a medical doctor and concerned that I was not seeing sufficient people to remain trained and in the game.
We're coming up on your 5 minutes, so.
All right, but I have the floor for the moment. The situation is not likely to change, is it? The population here is not increasing. Many here say, take me to the top of Route 27 and turn left, not right. Also noted in the iVantage report. iVantage says the hospital is viable. I regret to say business is viable if you pump enough money. On the other hand, you could look at Cylinder. There is just one pot of money in Booth Bay Harbor. It comes from your property taxes. The current situation, however it concludes, clearly serves to show how a small unrepresentative group of activists who attend the task force rant as an executive meeting labeled the subject can sideline the executive power of this Booth Bay Harbor Board of Selectmen and the community we represent. I'll leave it right there. I'm concerned that this whole task force is operating as a government with 4 people and who could very easily sidestep the well-established municipal government of this town. Just suppose Mr. McDonald is successful in making the district a hospital district, a community hospital district. Will it cost us money? The answer is possibly. Are we prepared for that? Thank you.
Thank you. I did not hear anything in there that is actionable by this board.
Good.
So,
It's just my view of the whole thing.
understood, and let's just leave it at that.
So I understand, how come that was brought up after the second public comment? Why wouldn't that have been a body of the meeting?
I don't know.
That didn't seem appropriate at the time.
Well, so if somebody wants to comment, can we have a third public?
I certainly will defer to the board, but I don't have any problem with the public commenting.
Yeah, I don't have one, you lost me, so I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just thinking if somebody else wants to say something,
Yeah.
then you should feel free to do it. I don't like that went at the end.
Understood your point. And as I said, I don't think the rest of the board has any problem with the public if they wish to offer additional comments on that.
I have some comments. I don't wish to prolong the meeting any longer, but,
You have the floor,
Prolong
okay,
it.
thank you.
Go.
So, just a couple of points, and I've said a couple before, but I just want to respond, is, for the first place, any FOA requests that the task force has received have not been ignored, and as far as I am aware of, have been followed to the letter of FOA. I guess my other comment would be for my representation as a member versus a representative, and I am an equal voting member as the other four representatives as the other three representatives of the other three towns. And the four of us make up the task force that we as a body voted on to join back in August.
No, we
That's
voted
my
to-
understanding.
Yeah.
And that's how it started, and that's what I understand is the legislative creation of that task force. I think I don't have anything else to say.
Whom do you
about the
represent
comments.
then, Mr. Chairman? Can I ask that question?
I don't think this conversation is fruitful for us or for the board, so unless the rest of the board feels otherwise, I'd like to just curtail us at this point and move on.
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
a point of information here. The legislation that Representative McDonald is exploring would be the creation of a community hospital district. And it would have to pass the legislature and be signed by the governor, but then it would have to go back to the localities. And the people in each of the four affected towns on the peninsula would have to vote to either support it or not support it. So it's a very complicated procedure, and it assures that every member of the community has a say as to whether or not they would support
Yeah.
the creation of that community hospital.
That's my understanding as well.
Margaret, I've
Mine too.
explained that at
Be
a
sure
previous
that-
meeting as
Because I think
well.
what Mr. Splain suggested was that there was something that was going to come down from on high and take over, and that's not the purpose of it at all.
I'm pleased to hear you say that, Mrs. Parrott, because other types of legislation in the past have found many ways to bypass that
Yeah.
appropriate
This is different.
method. Good. Has such a motion been made yet to?
No, it has not.
According to my investigation,
No,
it has not. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't found any sign of it either. We are now in the agenda executive session. I believe there is none tonight. That brings us to warrants. I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the warrants upon review.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the warrants on review. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. We are now at the adjournment part of our meeting.
I move we adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. There can be no discussion. All in favor? Thank you all for coming.